of all, you said if you're gonna put it on, you're gonna put it on. That's what we're gonna do today? We're making all of the things happen. First of all, everybody, welcome back to Power 97.5 LA iHeartRadio, Power B 97.5 Vegas. I'm excited about this moment because immediately when I thought about this icon, I'm going to embarrass him right now. Immediately, I thought about his legacy, his leadership, and his life beyond the screen. Everybody, Jason George has spent decades bringing layered characters to life, from daytime drama to one of the most television's most beloved medical universes. Everybody put your hands together for Jason George is in the building.
Oh, I should leave right now. I should just leave it at that. And I can only mess it up from there.
And cut. That's it. We're done.
Yeah.
All of the things, right?
Mic drop.
Before we start, Jason, I want to ask, and this is something I've been doing a lot now on carpets and on interviews. How are you right now in this season, and how's your heart?
Look, it's like everybody else, you feel a little beat up. Every morning you wake up and you feel like the first thing that happens was, before you even get your coffee, you feel like you take a punch in the gut real quick or one across the chin.
That part.
And then you try and steel yourself and get out the door and try and go have a day. But that said, I have said this to many friends. I am low-key optimistic. And here's where that comes from. The dying animal is always the loudest and most vicious. But it's still dying.
It's still dying.
It's still dying.
I'm like, it's still dying, Jason. But
the animal of racism and bigotry is so loud and so vitriolic and so reactionary right now because we've been killing it. It's slow. But it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back. But I still count that 1 step.
I do too.
You know what I'm saying? And so I feel like the problem is, when you're like, oh, we starting to get some traction now. We're starting to get like where it's running on its own steam. You're like, maybe we can kick back and actually we'll get across the finish line because everybody gets it now. And then we're like, nope, we got to suit up. We got to hit streets again. We got to get back in people's grill. We got to be DC. We got to be in people's faces. We got to be screaming for our piece of the pie that we helped build.
The pie that we helped build.
We gotta be screaming for our piece of it. So but that's it. We're gonna do what we gotta do because what's the choice?
Our choice is to keep going, right? And I think to your point, you've been living inside intense stories for over a decade, and I say decades at this point because let's be clear. We think of, if we want to go there, Grey's Anatomy to Station 19, but even before that, can we talk about the first Emmy nomination? Hello. I'm one of those people. I like to go back. But when you think about the transition, right? What has helped you transition from Dr. Ben Warren back to just Jason when the camera stopped?
You know what? It's funny. My older brother is a fool. My younger brother's an actor. So my older brother's like, I just think he goes, I watch the show and they call you a different name, but that's just Jason. He's like, that's the stuff you do. And I'm like, come on, man. But the reality is there are a lot of similarities between the two.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing that helps me transition is I've taken pains to keep my home life, my family life, real regular. My kids, they love me. They dig that I do this fun, cool thing.
Yeah.
But they take the piss out of dad real quick.
You're still dad at the end of the day.
Like every other dad, you can't be cool. You can sometimes get close. You can get close to being cool every once in a while.
They bring you right back down.
Every once in a while, you get within spitting distance of cool, and then they break it down, and they're like, no, Pop, nah, right. You ain't there yet. You ain't.
Listen, I was looking at something on social media the other day, and they have this thing, if you were born in the 19 anything, you are ancient. And I was just like, well, Jesus, at this point, and now we're doing these ancient archive things. But coming back full time to Grey's Anatomy after Station 19 had wrapped, what emotions kind of surfaced first for you, right? Was it nostalgia, gratitude, pressure, or was it something else?
You mean when we wrap the show?
Yeah.
When we come to wrap every year, it's always, when you watch Saturday Night Live and you see them all on stage at the end of the night and they're just applauding because they got through that junk. Like,
Right.
they're like, we were pretty certain we were going to blow. I didn't think that sketch was going to work. I didn't think we were going to get changed in time to make it to that sketch. Like, and you think that'd be so cool to have that experience where like, yo, we got through this thing. And I'll
Yeah.
give the other analogy, which is I come from a military town. My dad was in the Navy. Veterans greet each other different than they greet other people.
Okay.
It just is, because they're like, you understand the craziness, you understand
Right.
The insanity. At the end of the season, all of us in the cast, the crew, the writers, we all look at each other. We all kind of dap each other up, like we got another one in the books, and we didn't kill it. We didn't, because now at a certain point, once grades crossed a certain threshold, and it became clear, like, yo, this is the joint.
This is.
Don't you be the ones that screw it up,
please,
like, because they didn't screw it up in the first decade, and then they screwed it up in the second decade. We are into the third decade at season 22. We
need y'all to keep it moving.
Where it said you can't be the cast that screwed it up. So
you can't.
So you can't be the writing staff that screwed. So we keep dapping each other up like, yo, we got through another year and we get another one. You know what I mean? So that's what it feels like. We got through some stuff together.
Yeah, I always like to go back because I think that, as artists, we're so much bigger than sometimes the things that we're doing. And I think for you, you spoke at your alma mater at University of Virginia and you earned your MFA at Temple University.
Yeah.
What did it mean to stand in front of students who see themselves in you?
Ooh. First off, I mean, thank you. I don't know that I believe that that's true.
It is true.
I think, but I mean, look, I did them very, very separate. They were very different times.
Yeah.
I spoke at Temple for the graduation of the theater department and the film and television, and that was years ago. And so I felt like I hadn't earned that spot yet. I felt like
really,
I 100% at that time. I felt like I felt like they thought, he's on TV. He's famous right now, but he's not going to be in like 5 minutes. So let's get him now.
They're like, let's get him now.
Let's get him now before he disappears. And so I was like trying to pass on, and I also didn't know if I had anything to say. But when I spoke at UVA, their commencement their valediction speaker just this past year, I felt like there was too much I gotta say. I was like, look, I know y'all said I got this much time, but
I got a little bit more to talk.
I'm gonna go over. I'm just warning you now. I'm gonna go over a little bit because I got opinions about life, and then I was trying to figure out how to like comment on where we are in the world right now without killing the room and turn it into something different than, because I don't want in my hopes that this is a moment that history will remember, but will be a moment in a long history. I didn't want them to go the rest of their lives thinking their graduation became all about that moment and that's all they remember. So I didn't make it all about that. But but thinking about those things, it was like, it felt like a grave responsibility both times. And I felt like I hadn't earned that responsibility the first time. And the second time, I felt like I was up to the challenge and I felt like I got too much I'm trying to put in your head now.
Yeah.
So look, so I'm gonna give y'all part one.
You're trying to find a good balance.
And then I'm gonna meet y'all in the bar after the thing and I'm gonna give you the real, on a one-on-one.
Well, I think also think about your industry leadership though, right? I mean, you serve on the national boards of SAG-AFTRA and the AFTRA Foundation and the Motion Picture Television Fund and the Next Gen Committee. Why is it important for you to step into leadership instead of just staying and just laying as an actor?
There was when I was at UVA, there was a group I was involved with, and they taught me this quote that has been a big guiding thing in my life. Joaquin Miller, is that his last name? Said this quote: "All you hold in your cold, dead hand is that which you've given away." All you hold in your cold, dead hand is that which you've given away. However much money you made, however much stuff you bought, the flight clothes or whatever, when you die, ain't nobody care. Nobody, what you leave behind, the legacy you leave is what you did and who you helped and who you loved.
Yeah.
And that's real. And that starts with your family. And that's the most important. But it's all that. So what can you do to help somebody else? If all you do is take, well, that says something about you right there. All you do is take.
Yeah.
What did you do to help somebody? And then is it transactional? You only help people that you think can help you. The
Yeah,
question is,
yeah,
are you helping people that like, I don't even know you, but I don't know who this is going to help, but it goes out in the world and somebody's going to be better. And that somebody could be, with the union service, that somebody could be my brother, who's also an actor. That
yeah,
somebody could be me at the beginning of my career. And it's the stuff that, you treat, basically you treat people the way you want to be treated, right? It's the basic golden rule that we all taught. And that goes to
yeah.
like, put out in the world, but there are people in
What
this
you want to
business.
receive. Yeah,
Yeah, there are people in
yeah,
this business who treat people when they get to a successful point in their life, they treat people the way they were treated. Oh,
yeah.
I got dumped on. I got treated like, so I'm gonna dump on anybody I get. Y'all gonna get it when I get fame. I'm gonna treat everybody. I'm gonna run through the room and I'm gonna steamroll everybody,
Mm-hmm.
have it only my way. And if you don't like it, then get it,
It is what it is.
or I got dumped on. I'm gonna make sure when I get up, I'm gonna take care of everybody as best I can. As long as they earn it. I'm not gonna
I
give
was
you
gonna
something.
say I'm not just giving everybody
No,
up.
I'm not just gonna give it to you, but I'm gonna give everybody the shot.
Yeah,
Right? I'm gonna
yeah,
give everybody baseline respect, and I'm gonna try and give love back so that everybody has the shots that were denied. A lot of us going, back in the day.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, and all the people we love and respect, that's what they did. I mean, MLKs, the Sidney Poitiers, the
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know Denzel Washington.
The
They
list
made
goes on.
they,
Yeah.
they they opened doors and they tried to make sure they stayed open for people behind them, as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
slamming it shut and locking it to try and take more for
Correct.
themselves. Right?
Correct. And I think about right now the type of world that we're living in. I think a lot of people may or may not know this about you, but you serve on the creative council of Everytown for Gun Safety, right?
Mm.
And with that, and you work with Moms Demand Action in the 97%. Was there a moment in your life that just made this issue personal for you?
Yeah, and I also work with the Brady campaign, and the gun violence, being against gun violence should not be a partisan issue.
No, it shouldn't.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing.
It really shouldn't.
And,
No.
and, and
Yeah.
again, I come from a military town, and everybody had guns, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was the South, it's Virginia, it's a Navy town. So,
Everybody.
like, everybody's used to handling guns,
Yeah.
and everybody I know that's a gun owner gets that
Yeah.
until you make it a political conversation,
Right.
and then people get tribal.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You trying to take my guns, this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, I'm not trying to take your gun. I'm just trying to stop innocent people from dying.
That's all I'm doing.
It's not that deep, but it's a slow burn. There were two catch points, because we all grew up in this like pot of water that was boiling, that was building up, getting hotter and hotter until it was boiling, of gun violence in our country. The one that happened a long time ago is my cousin was killed by gun violence, and his killer was never found.
Mm.
And in the mind of younger Jason, I was angry, I was frustrated, but that was just a crime,
Yeah.
right? That's just crime, and you lock it into a different category. And then older Jason became a dad and started seeing school shootings and everything, and you try and lock it into that's craziness and that's a shame. But then you start to realize it's all the same. It's gun violence when a cop has a justified shooting.
Yeah.
Because we should all wish that it didn't have to happen.
Yeah.
Right. Even when even when you understand the cop did have to shoot that person.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how do we make it so you didn't have to shoot that person?
Yeah.
We didn't get in that scenario.
Like, what was the other option? Yeah.
Right. Can we find a way around that? Or because there's so many cop shootings where it wasn't justified.
Yeah.
And can we deal with those, the mental health issues and that sort of thing? Should it had been a police officer dealing with that instead of somebody who's a mental health professional?
Yeah.
And then there's so many things that we can do. So, and then when you start researching it, you start finding out that there's so many simple answers. You can't solve all the problems, but if you can solve a lot with some really simple things, I'm like, what is the problem? And the problem is money. There's a lot of money coming out of the gun manufacturers, and that that people who all want these simple things to happen, they're still willing to vote for candidates, and the candidates think if they vote against it, then they'll lose the money from the gun lobby. So it comes down to the candidates thinking, will I lose your vote if I vote against this, or will you still vote for me because you think I'll make your taxes better? You'll still vote. And that's as simple as that. You know what I mean?
It is. And it's one of those things that I think that as we have these conversations, I've always liked to talk to people about their stance on the things, right? Because there are actually a lot more similarities than there are differences. But you said something about Jason. And as we started the conversation, I always like to go back to Sunset Beach, because it's one of those moments that we think about our first major role on television. And that was that for you. And also, it was an Emmy nominated, I'm going to say winner, I'm gonna give him.
No, I didn't
I'm gonna,
win. I didn't win.
I'm gonna give him the winner. But there was an Emmy nominated, role. What did working in daytime television teach you about discipline and performance stamina and just kind of audience connection?
Yo, so you said it right there in the question. People in the industry want to poo-poo soaps, but there's some people that know. There's some people that know, like when they did a reunion of the soap, Julianne Moore, who's a big gun safety advocate, she went back to her character that played twins and everything like that. Morgan Freeman started in soaps. Like soaps have a long history, and the reason why I think people poo-poo it is what you realize it's not the performers.
No.
It's the realities of that business. It's 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Right? It's 5 days a week. So what would be one scene on Grey's Anatomy is 5 scenes on General Hospital.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you're drawing it out and that sort of thing. So the writers got to work so hard. You got to work twice as hard to get half as far in soaps. Right. Mm-hmm. You only going to get one take. I got so many takes.
You did.
In prime time, you get a lot of takes. In daytime, they're like, yo, we want it in one. We'll give you 2. If you make us really want it in one. Yeah. If you make us do a third take, your contract might be in question. Yeah. And 3 takes is like, we just getting warmed up in prime time. You know what I mean? And film is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
So, there are film actors who, when they show up in prime time, they're like, wow, this is hard. And then when prime time actors show up and, ever do daytime, they're like, yo, this is crazy. And I'm like, yes. So it's like soaps is you train for marathons and then you hit prime time and it's a 10K. And you're like, oh, I'm good. I'm good. That soaps require a level of discipline. Now, the reason why you can also get lazy, because you can start to look at 5 shows a week as, well, I got 5 tries. So if I get 3 of them right, I'm cool. Yeah. You know what I mean? I got a better than average, I'm batting, 600. So it's like, you need to make sure you stay on yourself to say, I'm still trying to hit 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to bat 1,000. And that's the thing.
Yeah. Well, and I think also you built a beautiful career in television, right? You've appeared on incredible ranges of shows like Eve, which a lot of us love. And I feel like that was one of the second times I probably really saw you on television. But
that was a good time.
That was a good time.
That show, good memories.
I'm not going to hold you. That was a good time. Yeah. But also shows like ER and House. How do you adapt your acting approach when moving between comedy and high stakes drama?
You know what? I don't change my approach that much because even in the more dramatic things, I keep it light.
Okay.
Because keeping it light for me is I'm talking trash and cracking jokes and messing with people because that's how I keep my energy up.
Yeah.
And it's easy for me to turn that energy. It seems like fun, but it's easy for me to turn that energy into intensity.
Yeah.
Because look, we're Black. Like, my mom and dad were never funnier than when they were whooping somebody's ass. Metaphorically or literally with my pop.
I mean, either way.
It was like, you might be running, but later on you laugh about it. And we all get to, we're like, yo, and we crack jokes about like, yo, you didn't, like about how off our parents could go. So the ability to turn that fun energy, that funny energy.
Jason, really quick, as you said that, it's interesting how we're in this grown life actually saying that and laughing at it. I was just literally mentally thinking about, I want you to finish, but I was mentally thinking, damn, my parents used to whoop my tail. And I laugh about it now.
No, it was not a game. It was not a game. But part of it is the reason why we can laugh is because we know there was love.
There was love, yeah.
And that was all they knew at the time. We got more tools now.
Yeah, yeah.
But I still make sure my kids know. I'm like, look, you ain't seen it like for real like that.
Look,
they've gotten.
You want to take that iPad away? Stop playing with
me. I'm like, like sometimes you got to yoke a kid. You know what I mean? And let them know. I'm like, but I'm like, understand what I went through.
Yeah.
And know that I'm holding back some. But like, don't make me.
Please just don't make me.
Go off on you one time. You don't want this.
I want to get into some questions because when people heard that you're going to be on the show, they kind of started rolling in. So we were able to pull 3. One comes from Nick. Nick is out of Brooklyn, New York. And he says, Dr. Ben Warren has had one of the most fascinating career evolutions on television. Surgeon, firefighter, husband, father.
I know that's right, yeah.
Right? What keeps the character interesting for you after all these years?
I mean, that's part of it. The writers kept finding ways to flip it up and change it up. And part of it comes from that thing they found early on that I clicked into, which is Ben. Ben is pretty, he'll sacrifice himself to, he's like, look, I might lose my job, but I'm gonna save this man's life.
Yeah.
We're gonna do it, right? Yeah. That he's a risk taker. And I connected with that. And then that became, when they wanted to create the spinoff show, they said, well, how can he be a bigger risk taker than to go be a firefighter running into fire? So let's do that. And so they kept finding ways to change up what Ben was about. And that's part of what always kept it interesting for me. But then the other part is just, honestly, I'm gonna give props to my girl, Chandra Wilson. Before I was ever on the show, I became a fan of the show, and I was like, I would like to act with, and I had a couple other actors on the show that I was like, I would love to work with them, but at the top of the list was Chandra Wilson. And when we work together, it's effortless. It is. It's Fred and Ginger, and in this case, I'm Ginger. But it's easy, and it's easy, but not that it's not hard work, but it's just marriage. It's like, look, I grew up doing a lot, playing sports and everything like that. Athletes, thoroughbreds want to run. Yeah. Right. And you want to run with other thoroughbreds. And so it's work, and you sweating and you're doing it, but it's like, whatever your sport is, basketball, baseball, like you want to play and you feel better, and you get to that zone in your brain where you're like, I'm not even thinking, I'm in my Zen space.
I'm just doing it.
I am in flow is what they call it in this one scientific space, where you're like, you're like when you open up the medicine cabinet and you can catch the thing that's fallen because you don't got to think.
That's it. I mean,
we get into that a little bit. When Chandra and I get in that for me that's crack. And that's what I keep coming back for. I'm addicted to that.
Sean from Atlanta, Georgia says, Hollywood can be unpredictable, especially for actors navigating longevity. What mindset helped you stay constant through different eras of television?
It is hard, and it's gotten harder. I mean, it feels like you're working, twice as hard to make less for so many of my friends. I recognize I'm in a blessed spot right now.
I said the same thing.
It's an absolute blessing to be on this show. And so, but I can never forget, and I have so many friends in my life, so I'm very aware of it, and that's part of why I fight in the union for stuff. But my mindset, I mean, I said to myself a long time, because I was going to be a lawyer. My plan was to be a lawyer when I went to college. And I took an acting class and fell in love with this thing, discovered things about myself. And so I had this mantra, like, if I wanted safety and security, I'd have been a lawyer. Yeah. Like, I could have set myself up with a pretty good gig being a lawyer. Yeah. I had my mentor was Supreme Court Justice back in Virginia. Wow. So I would have clerked for him, but I was like, so you signed up for hard. You signed up for change.
Come on.
You know what I mean? You signed up to not, and you said it'll be exciting. And then you get to be grown and you start to have responsibilities, and now it feels unstable. And you go, unstable is the same thing as exciting. You just
it really is.
You just saying it in a different way. You know what I mean? Remember the exciting part.
Exactly.
Remember why you came, because you wanted unstable.
Yeah.
But you're like, but it shouldn't be this unstable.
I was going to say it shouldn't be this much.
Not this much. So you fight and you find ways to, put it together. You try and create relationships. Yeah. So, and you find people who are actually trying to, I'll never forget, like after I left Sunset Beach, Aaron Spelling created that show.
Yep.
Produced that show. And for those of you that are too young, Aaron Spelling was the Shonda Rhimes of the 80s and 90s.
90210 Melrose Place, all of the things.
Right? Yeah. Anybody of a certain age can run down the shows. And
you really can.
We had parties around it. People were drinking. That's where you got your wine and your popcorn and your homies.
Listen. That's when it was good. Yeah.
Right? But Aaron Spelling, like after I left that show, I remember he checked in with a friend of mine who was like my big sis, Christina Smith, who was a producer for him. And we were still tight. And he would check in with her. Hey, is Jason working? Because we can find something for him. And when you want to create relationships, show up, be good at your job, and treat people with respect, treat everybody with respect, and then try and create those relationships so that people be like, yo, if you're not working, we'll holler at you. Like, and then you see people like, Eric Dane continued working after he got, ALS, like Chill Mitchell, continued working after he'd lost the use of his legs in a motorcycle accident. Why? Because He's good. He's good at his job. He's good people, and people are like, "Yo, chill. You working? Let me get you straight." And
That's
so
it.
that's part of how you do it. But the mindset is, let me put good stuff in the world, and hopefully it comes back to me. And
Mm-hmm.
that's to the people you deal with. And the other mindset is, you signed up for a certain level of hard. So
Risk.
find a way to enjoy it, because on the other side of this hard, those are gonna be the fun stories. Those
Those
are
are
gonna
the
be the fun stories.
amazing stories.
Just like we laugh about our parents whooping our tail. If you survived it, you will tell funny stories about it,
You can
right?
tell funny stories. Last question comes from Monica. She's out of Los Angeles. She says representation in television has evolved over the years. When you look at the landscape of today compared to when you started, what progress stands out to you most?
Here's the thing. Again, we're in a certain moment in time, but it is just a moment in time. Um, almost every black writer I know, and so many of the actors started in comedy,
Mm.
right? Not that they're comedians. I'm not a comedian,
No.
but you're gonna get your first gig on a sitcom or on something like that. I was soaps, but then I went right into sitcoms right after that, right? And part of that is because now I'm gonna put on my hat because I actually chair the diversity advisory committee for SAG-AFTRA. I do a lot of work in diversity when it comes to television and representation.
Yeah.
Statistically, every underrepresented community, every what we women, performers with disabilities, people of color,
Mm-hmm.
we're all underrepresented in television, with the exception, every non-white heterosexual male category is underrepresented in television, with
Mm-hmm.
the exception of black men when it comes to comedy. Now, this is
Ah,
a statistic from back in the day. So in other words, I'll say it a different way. We're allowed to be funny.
yeah.
We're allowed to be funny. That's how it was when I came in. Everybody of a certain age came in through some kind of fun, or at least got their a sustainable career
Yeah.
on some kind of sitcom or something funny, and then you branched out. John Ridley, who won an Oscar for 12 writing 12 Years a Slave, was writing sitcoms when he started out. Now you can get your start doing dramatic work. Now
Yeah.
you can get your start doing other things. So I see the two steps forward, and we might be taking a step back right now, but I still recognize that we've moved forward, right?
Yeah.
There are
Same.
dramas. The other part that I'll say is that right now we live in the world of streaming. When television's free and it's ad supported, they just said, I came in as the black
Yeah.
best friend, the BBF. Everybody
Yeah.
talked about we were black actors. We were talking about it. Who are you? I was the black best friend. I was the BBF.
I was a BBF.
My job was to ask the lead, how was your night? So he could talk a page and a half about the date he had and how he's in love with her or this, that, and the other thing, blah, blah, blah. And I
Yeah.
go, that's cool, man. And I roll out, right? I was the black best friend. Now we're real rounded characters, even in
Yeah.
multicultural things. Now you've got Grey's Anatomy, where I remember actually Eric Dane. Oh my God, this all comes around. When his character was lying in his hospital bed and about to pass away, and all these doctors from the hospital, series regulars, guest stars, came and were holding vigil for him. I remember having a moment. I looked around the room, and some of Eric's best friends were brothers, by the way. Eric could roll. He was not. He was no stranger to the barbecue. But
Eric
that
said
was
I was
behind the scenes. But on camera, I'm looking, and I counted something like 7, 8 people of color. A lot of black folks, and it's not a quote unquote black show.
Yeah, not at all.
It's just brilliant actors playing
Really?
characters who are brilliant. And I was like, this didn't exist when I started
Yeah.
in this business. This didn't exist when I was growing up and watching TV.
Hmm.
And if you see it, you can be it. So now there's so many fantastic writers and actors and producers and directors coming in
Yeah.
the game, and they expect no less. They're like, what? Why can't the be black? Why can't it be a black woman?
It
Why
should
can't it
be.
be
Yeah.
and that's a beautiful spot. And by the way, it's not just people of color doing it. There's a
No.
lot more
No.
non-black, people who are looking for. They're like, I want to look like the world, pushing. They ain't pushing as hard as we're pushing, probably, but they are pushing.
They are
And
pushing. And I think, to your point, listen, you have done some beautiful representation in your career. And I do want to, one, just thank you
thank
for
you.
the
Thank
heartbeat that you have honestly given yourself, your family, and the people that's behind you. As we wrap our show, though, I love that I recurated in the show called The Therapy Session. And it's one of these moments
you.
that we kind of go back. One, we all need a little therapy right now in the world.
Right?
But
Right.
It's like a lightning round moment for yourself just to kind of think about this. And these are answers that probably people have never heard you even answer. First thing that comes to your mind, you only get a couple of seconds.
Okay.
What is a major lesson you learned from your last relationship?
From my last relationship before my marriage,
Yeah.
uh, ooh, um, accept nothing less. Accept nothing less than what you're worth.
What is the biggest misconception people have about you?
That I'm bougie. That I'm bougie.
Same, same.
Yeah,
I'll
I
take it.
get because I look.
I'll take it.
I'm in my head. I will go on a intellectual tirade about some junk and wax philosophical, and I'll get on my actor voice and sound very blah 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 blah. But then you catch me in the right moment. You go, oh, he's a fool.
That's it.
Oh, he's a fool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What
Okay.
is the most significant experience that has shaped who you are today, Jason?
Oh, um, this is wow. This is really this person came to mind. There was a time I was running and I jumped off the edge of my porch as a kid. I landed and I remember looking up into a tree and it had just rained and I saw raindrops on a spider web and the spider in it, and it was so beautiful. In that moment, I knew for a fact, unquestionably, there is a higher power and it
Ooh.
for all living beings.
What is the best trip that you've ever taken?
Um, I had the honor of taking my family to shout out to Boris Kojo, to Ghana, uh,
Nice.
Ghana in Africa on the in 2019 at the 400th anniversary of the beginning of the slave trade,
Wow.
and we were in the slave castle dungeons, and walked through the gates of no return,
Whoa.
and then turned around and treated them like the gates of return. Welcome back.
Wow.
And that was borderline spiritual for everybody on the trip. The kids were younger, everybody raised their game, and that was an amazing trip.
Come on. Shout out to Boris. What advice would you give young actors who want not just success, but longevity within this business?
Financial freedom is creative freedom.
Look,
Um, find a job that pays your bills and
yep.
gives you the freedom to get out whenever you get a chance to work.
Yep.
When you are given the opportunity and the blessing to work, and if you have that, that's cold fusion. You can run forever. Then it's
That's it.
only going to be your ego and how often you can accept no, but it's not the money thing, right? You can look at some of these IMDb, even famous actors. You can look at their IMDb page and tell when they got some bills. Oh,
That's it.
that's when you got hit with that back taxes bill because you start making some horrible choices. Oh,
Yeah.
that's when you got divorced because you started making some questionable choices.
That's when it got a
Okay,
little shaky. It got a
that's
little
when you
shaky.
needed money. That's when you needed. If you live well within your means,
Yeah.
you can do whatever you want. I mean, you're
Yeah.
like, take the job, don't take the job. You're like, then nobody can talk to you. People will treat you as bad as you let them, and you might let them treat you worse if you really, really need that money.
Yeah.
But if you're like, I'm gonna be cool, what was it Dave Chappelle when he stopped at the Chappelle show? He said, "Look, I wasn't broke. Be clear, I had a couple dollars to rub together. So if I feel some kind of way about this right now, I can walk away. Yeah, it's more money, but I have
But I
enough.
can walk away. And
As
I can,
long as you have enough, you're
that's it.
cool. More is always nice, but
Yeah.
make
But
sure
as
you
long as
have
I got
enough.
enough,
But
I'm
make
good.
sure you have enough.
You have had an amazing career. You've been a great father, great husband. I think so many people see themselves within you and your story.
Oh,
I'm
thank
gonna make them laugh right now. Jason Winston Ginger George.
you. Ginger, what?
What do you want your legacy to be?
Um, legacy. I I want to be part of creating, if not at the core of creating, stories that people see themselves in.
Yeah,
That people see themselves in. And for some people, it might be because these people look like me, these people talk to me. But I hope for a lot of other folks, it's I see myself in them, but they don't look like me,
yeah.
and they don't live like me and love like me or whatever. So for me, I want to create, you know, stories that people see themselves in and bring people together.
That's it. Listen, thank you so much for you, your heart, and your work, and all of the things. And I want everybody to make sure they continue to support you. I want to
Uh,
thank you for everything that you have given all of us. And as we always say on Power 97.5 LA and iHeartRadio, stay positive, but stay creative. Until next time, thank you for tuning in.
I love that. Stay positive, but stay creative. Appreciate you, man. This was a great time.
Thank you. Woo! Thank you.
That was fun, man. That was really fun.
I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.